Clan Collection is finally out in Japan, and while we still have to wait a couple months for it in the English release, a lot of people are already really excited about this new product, and it's kind of become this biannual kind of Christmas feeling where everyone just kind of tries out new stuff in V and kind of realizes how far V has gone now thanks to things like Heal Guardians being added to the format, making it a bit more slow, but at the same time very enjoyable. So I've personally been playing quite a lot of V Collection myself, or just like V Premium in general, just because of the new stuff, and I've almost exclusively been playing DP, to be honest. I think about like 50 games or so, and I still can't get bored of the deck because the new additions are so great. But I've also basically played against every single deck that's been supported or that has come out, and I've also watched videos and stuff of the other decks being played and, you know, things like that. So I think I have a pretty good grasp of more or less everything right now in the V meta. Now, a lot of people had complaints that this set doesn't feel very like meta defining. It doesn't feel like it changes up everything, or like, you know, doesn't dethrone the best decks of the previous format, but it does bring a lot of interesting things to the table. And so in today's video, I want to look at basically like the winners and losers of this set in terms of the new grade 3/grade 4s, or just like the main cards that were like on the packaging basically that were used to promote this product. And so I'm going to be making a separate video at some point kind of talking about how this set impacts the meta in general, like what the best cards really are universally, not just for these grade 3s, but like, you know, how do the new Angel Feather cards do in Gavriel, right? How do the new Bermuda cards work with Prisms? I really want to break things down in that aspect as well, but for the time being, let's actually look at specifically the new stuff and how it all works together. Before we do that though, I want to quickly thank this month's lovely YouTube channel members. You are the guys that come through and support the channel and help me do what I do. Also, for these 4 VSR Die Kaisers have coming in, so thank you very much. So special thank you goes to Crowned Clown, Barry Flores, Platinum Wolf 2009, Christian, Kyrus Darkblade, Carrie Barger, Arcana Master, Tristan H, Martinich 67, Cardinal Joker, Michael Lockett, The Real ZBD, Stogan, Zach S, Hassan Iqbal, Reaper 66, Jan Fish, Impact Monster, Lindo 1332, and of course KSGG. Thank you so much everyone for coming through and supporting the channel with your channel memberships. Don't forget the channel members do have exclusive tournaments for them, and together with the Twitch subscribers that I do on my Discord. So we do one of these for every format once per month. So basically we have, we just had Premium, we had V Premium the week before, and we have Standard coming up on the day after the DB2 3 release in Japan. So it'll be a new meta, so it'll be very exciting to see how things are shaping up there. And on top of that, there's a bunch of other perks such as, you know, joining the Discord and getting access to exclusive channels. So if you haven't already, make sure you do that. And once again, thank you so much to the people supporting. Without any further ado though, let's take a look at the winners and losers of Clan Collection. Alright, gotta love the transition every time. Alright, so I decided I don't really want to do like a tier list style thing, you know, the way that people usually do, I guess, the more kind of like typical way, but instead we have specific scales. You know, we have this scale here, which is going to be our winners and losers, and then I wanted to kind of break it down even more and talk about which of these grade 3/grade 4s could become the new main build for the clan, and which ones are more like side grades. So what a side grade means is, like, for example, let's say Grand Blue, right? We have Night Rose, who's really popular, right? And Night Rose is like the main kind of like build for Grand Blue in V Premium, but then, you know, if something like Ghosties comes out like last time, that was like a side grade to Night Rose. You could build a Ghosty deck without having to build Night Rose, so that's a side grade. And some of these cards are meant to be kind of like supporting cards, like, you know, without being too obvious about it, but, you know, Mr. Time Leaper is definitely more of a side grade, so we're gonna probably put him down here, and so that's basically like how that will work, right? So that's kind of how things will go. So I guess I'll just start with Gear Chronicle. I wasn't intending to start with it, but it looks like I can snap it back into the grid. So for me, Gear Chronicle is definitely on the winner side, just because obviously it's like we're looking specifically at the new cards that came out. And so Gear Chronicle definitely isn't like a, you know, Chronos Command isn't a build of its own. It is definitely a supporting card. You know, it's a supporting card, and the grade 2 supports Chronojet, the grade 3 supports Chronojet. The grade 1 isn't that great, but I think that definitely like Gear Chronicle is like on the winner side very much so. Like, I think Gear Chronicle was already really good in the previous set, but it wasn't exactly like, it was missing a little bit of that extra power needed to be tier 1. Now you have an amazing first superior ride to go into when you're going first or second, because you don't need to necessarily go into next stage anymore, or Time Leaper going first, like if you want to just like farm up a board. And on top of that, the Caliboom that you got as a grade 2 is really good in recycling your Ribbles. So for that reason, I think that Chronos Command, you know, and Gear Chronicle in the set in general is definitely a winner of this set, but it's definitely more on the like side grade level of stuff. It's not like a new main build or anything. So if anything, I would definitely put it like down here somewhere, but it's definitely a winner. I think this is heavily winning from this set. Gear Chronicle is looking really good. Next, looking at Tachikaze. Tachikaze, I'm hearing a lot of excitement about it, and I've played against it. It feels very strong, but the introduction of Heal Guardians also kind of like slows down their early game potential that they otherwise would have had, you know, an easy time with. I think it is on the winner side, and I do think it's more towards the new build section, because you do combine the new stuff with other archetypes like Gaia, but at the same time I feel like Spino Driver is like the main grade 3 that you want to go for a lot of the times right now, so it does feel like more like a new build, but also could be a side grade, so it's kind of like in the middle, I guess, maybe like somewhere towards here, but it definitely also feels like a winner. And it definitely feels like it supports Tachis a lot, to the point that I've been seeing a lot of the V Premium tournaments happening, you know, in locally, like in card shops and stuff. Actually, Tachis have been doing pretty well there. So I think that that is definitely a good sign for Tachikaze in general. Next, we have Angel Feather. Now, Angel Feather got an amazing grade 1 and grade 2, especially grade 2. Let you basically tutor for anything you want into your damage zone. The grade 3, you know, the Ramiel herself is pretty good, but definitely not something that would overtake Gavril in my opinion. Definitely not like, you know, a main new build that like is better than Gavril. It is pretty strong though. It does have quite a bit of consistency. I wouldn't say it's the biggest winner. Like I wouldn't say this is like meta defining in any means. Like, you know, the way that I think Gear Chronicle definitely feels more like a meta defining new kind of addition. This feels more like a fun, strong side grade, and it definitely, like, the grade 2 and the grade 1 are huge wins for Angel Feather, but the grade 3 I feel like is a fun build. It's definitely a strong deck, but I don't think that it's necessarily going to be better than the existing ones. Like, even No Seal I think is still better than this, but it is a cool little one, and so I think that deserves to be on the winner side at least, but not as far as the others. Think Saver, now this one I think is definitely a new main build for Royals. Like, of course, MLB is still going to be very popular, so it's not going to be like completely overtaking everything, but I think at least popularity-wise, not necessarily meta-wise, but popularity-wise, I think Think Saver will be by far the most popular, and people will combine Think Saver with things like Jewel Knights, you know, in order to make it work, or with like Sanctuary Guard maybe, and things like that. But I definitely feel like Think Saver has the potential to be the next new main build for Royals, and it does feel like a winner. Like, honestly, this might seem like a hot take because, you know, it's like, oh, you can't, you know, you have to like spend a whole turn not doing anything, but the like damage potential you have on turn 4, it's kind of like Bruce in Standard, honestly. Like, you don't do much on turn 3, you still do some stuff, you do more than Bruce does, but you do such an explosive, tremendously strong turn 4 that I think this deck honestly is like a huge winner in my eyes. Like, this is really, really good. Also, if you guys want to check out any of these decks, you guys need deck lists and stuff. I'm not planning to deck profile everything in this set, obviously, but if you want to check out some builds, check out YellowCard Vanguard, because Tony on that channel has been doing like basically builds for every single deck, and he's also done like a combo tutorial for Think Saver that will definitely like explain why this deck is so good, because realistically with stuff like Lucius, you can chain so many attacks, and you know, Lucius plus the Jewel Knight engine gives you so many multi-attacks and the sustain to survive against a lot of other decks. So honestly, I think that Think Saver is a big winner, and I think that also it has the potential to be the next main build for Royals as well, at least from my testing so far. Eradicators. So Eradicators definitely don't overtake, I don't think they overtake Vanquish in any way. They're not exactly a new side grade either, because they've already existed for quite a while and they've always been a side grade, so I'm not sure where on this scale I would really put them. But at the same time, it feels good because Demolition Dragon, the grade 1, is really good. The grade 2 is also pretty decent, but I think the grade 1 is definitely the most shining part of the deck. The grade 3, if anything, is the one that feels the most like it's very much just like, okay, it's fine. So I think it's somewhere around like here. It is a side grade, but it's always been a side grade, so I think it's somewhere around here. Like, the grade 1 and 2 definitely carry it more than the 3, but I think even like Ramiel is a better grade 3 than the Vowing. Like, I think Vowing is fairly strong, but at the same time, it doesn't feel as good as all the other Narukami bosses so far, so I definitely wouldn't put it that high in the winners. But for the time being, it definitely feels like it's, you know, the grade 1 and 2 definitely carried up here. Nubatama with Dai Hozan. To me, this is both a new main build and also very, very, very strong. Like, Dai Hozan in V Premium just feels really good. Like, I got clapped by one of these Singaporeans on my stream the other day, where they basically went into Dai Hozan after I was like great stuck for a turn, and then went into Jamio after I had farmed up a hand, and it hurt really bad, because Dai Hozan kind of like stuns you from calling a bunch of stuff, which is really bad for like all the Axel decks that like rely on a big board. And then on top of that, if you are a slower deck that doesn't call your stuff, stuff, or like you're not calling stuff to not lose hand from the Daihosan effect, Jamio then just rides and puts you down to 4 cards in hand, which is like, ouch, you know, that really hurts. So I feel like Daihosan is really, really good. Like Nubatama, I don't know how it compares to Shiranui right now, because that was kind of like the main build beforehand, but like Daihosan with Jamio just feels really, really nice. It feels like a very strong deck, and it feels like a winner, and also the new main build for the clan, so I definitely think it's way up here for sure. Neo Nectar is definitely like, I guess, a side grade. Like, it's definitely a side grade because you're playing like, you know, the just like plant tokens, you know, basically the Maiden of archetype in a way, you know, with like the Katrina wannabe. I really enjoy that deck, by the way, so I'm not like throwing shade or anything, but Vera feels quite good. It's like you basically need to have Saul on the board to have like the pressure of like activating your triggers and stuff and like applying them to the whole field, but the deck feels pretty decent. I don't think it's insanely good, but I think it's like somewhere around here in between Ramiel and Vowing. You know, it's like it's strong and it feels okay, but it's definitely like not as explosive as I would have expected it to be. But at the same time, I think it has some potential. It's just that like you really rely on Saul. Like Saul is so important in order to like turn on the whole deck and like make it actually function properly in order to have that kind of like huge trigger pop off. And of course you still have the whole Neo Nectar buff of having plant tokens in the first place, and of course like the grade 1 is also a pretty good card as well and giving you that counter charge if I'm not mistaken. So I think it's somewhere around here. Like it definitely is like on the winner side of things, but like not too far into it, and it's definitely more of a side grade than anything, so we can kind of put it over here. But Musketeers, like they were kind of in their own deck before, but now I guess they're even more so their own deck. So yeah, definitely more of a side grade, but also on the winner side. Finally, we have something that I wouldn't put on the winner side, which is Mr. Reiji. So Reiji in the right hands feels less bad. I wouldn't say he has potential, but Reiji in the right hands, like there's a player called Noto who I played against. There I definitely feel like this deck being a bit threatening, because at least you're sitting on like 17k base and like, but it's so hard to reach the threshold. It's so hard to like do what the deck wants to do, and you have to just like turbo soul charge. If you're really desperate, you can make it work, but I don't think it's that good. And it's definitely, I mean, it is a side grade, but there's no way in hell this would be the next main kind of build for this deck. Or I guess I should actually put this a bit up here, because this has potential to be the next main build, right? It has the potential to be the next main build, but it's also a side grade, but you know, it's kind of like down here. This is definitely a side grade, and it's nowhere near as good as everything else that DI has had this whole time. And so for that reason alone, I don't think it deserves to be anywhere else but here. It really doesn't feel that good. They could have done better with it. I don't know why it has to be face down bind, but yeah, feels ragey, man. All right, up next we have Raging Form. So this is Revenger is basically adding 2 shadows. Definitely a side grade, not going to be the next main build because Luard is definitely kind of like keeping a chokehold on that position, but I think it does have quite a bit of potential. I think it has quite a bit of potential. The whole deck basically allows you to go into Mordred and like spam stuff if you're going second, and then once you have like 4 or 5 damage and you have a bunch of Cannon Blast, you can go into Raging Form and like chain a bunch of like Vanguard restands, which is cool. But I think that you like one of the best cards honestly for this edition isn't so much Raging Form, but for me it's like the grade 1, which lets you tutor Revengers from your deck all the time on hit, and like, you know, most decks want Counterblast early, so they will let it hit usually, and so that's really nice because you get a lot of free plussing. And on top of that, the grade 2 like Tartu is also really nice, but I think Raging Form as well is a pretty cool boss unit. It has quite a bit of potential. I would say it's on the winner's side, somewhere together with Ramiel over here, and it's definitely a side grade. I think I should put her down here more towards the side grades too, because they're definitely like, you know, supporting grade 3s. No, not supporting grade 3s, they are different builds to what the meta of that clan is. But I think Raging Form has a lot of, you know, strong potential, but I don't think it's as good and, like, reliable as Luard. Luard just kind of, like, does everything for you, and for that reason I think it's somewhere down here in that sense too. Then we have Bunnies. This is definitely, I mean, this is a side grade, but it's a new main build. Like, in my opinion, Bunnies are insanely good. Wow, this scrolled up all the way to the top. I think Bunnies are insanely good. They're very, very strong. Honestly, like, way up here. I think, honestly, we can put them way up here because Bunnies are just a super winner of this set, and also definitely feels like the next main thing for Pale Moon in general, because you can combine this with a lot of things, right? People build this with Golden Beast Tamer, which is really strong because you can turn, you know, the Golden Beast Tamer into a Vanguard Circle and then get more superior calls and more combos. But what a lot of people do is also combine it with Harry, and with Harry you can basically, you know, farm your Axel 2s, you know, make a nice stage, and then after that you basically can do the combos with the Bunnies with Harry together with the Pigeon and everything. Like, this feels really good. Like, Bunnies feel insanely good, and I think that, like, we had like one tournament post Clan Collection with my Twitch subs subs and YouTube channel members, and actually I think the only deck from the new ones that topped was bunnies, and like, you know, it has the potential to stand against the meta, and in my opinion, like, this is a very strong deck, very, very powerful. And now, of course, we finally reach my own, you know, my baby child. Of course I'm gonna put him to the winners, baby. All right, let's not be too biased. I think DP is definitely a huge winner because the entire card pool is insane. Die prop is an insane grade 1. Kaizard, at first I wasn't that impressed with, but now once I have the right trigger ratios, oh my god, he carries so hard. Like, going second and having 3 force markers is huge. Like, that is definitely huge. Having triple force 2 on turn 3 is like, most other decks can't do that outside of like Poets, I guess, but even then they don't put it on the front row. I think DP is a huge winner. Daikaiser itself, honestly, might be the least strong part. His existence is strong. Like, him just being on the board puts out a lot of pressure, but his effect itself, once the opponent knows like what it really does, isn't that big, I guess. Like, it's just like CB1 ping 1. If they're on 4 and you have 3 force 2s, you might not even want to use it because you want to like give them that pressure or like deny them damage, right? But I think overall DP is a huge winner of this set, and I'm not sure where to put it in terms of new main build or side grade, because actually, in my opinion, the optimal build is like Daikaiser, Dieliner, Great Daisha, Brad Black. Like, Dieliner is still your best going first ride, Brad Black is still your best going second ride, and so like Daikaiser is your 4 of because you want him on rearguard circle regardless if you go first or second. But is the whole deck based around him? Not really. Like, he is like a super important main component of the deck, but it's kind of like back in G when you played Daikaiser because you wanted the name for Daikaiser Leon, or because like you could break ride Legion and stuff like that, but the deck was based around the strides and what you could do with DP as a clan, not so much about what each single grade 3 did, right? So it's very much like that now too. It's like the whole deck is a team that works together and makes things happen. It's not so much that Daikaiser himself carries the whole clan on his shoulders, right? As amazing as he is. So I think this is like a perfect place to put him because he's both a supporting grade 3, but he's also kind of the main build, and it's just perfectly in the middle. I think it's perfectly in the middle, but DP is a huge winner in V. Like, honestly, Die Prop on its own is an insane grade 1. I think one of the best grade 1s ever printed in the clan period, and I think that everything else just really rounds it out. Of course, I'm putting in a little bit bias here. All these other decks I've played against, DP is the only deck I've played from all the new stuff, and I've played it like at least 50 games at this point. I love it. I can't get enough of it. It really takes me back to like the Limit Break / like the G days where I could literally play DP forever. Like, throughout all of G, I was a university student, didn't have much money, only had like 2 or 3 decks, and I just played DP in tournaments non-stop because I was like, well, I want to top with this, I'm stubborn, and also can't afford the other meta decks, right? So I just played DP forever and never got bored of it, and that's how I feel right now with it too. I can't imagine myself getting bored of this. Like, it just feels so good to play. All right, but enough talking about that. You'll hear way more about Daikaiser when I make the deck profile, which is coming soon, by the way. I ordered my Japanese stuff. I got my 4 VSRs ordered, so once everything comes in, then I will do a deck profile. I want to do it with physical cards. I could do a lecture, you know, and just show pictures, but I kind of want to, you know, I don't know. I'm not really sure. Let me know in the comments. Do you want a deck profile with physical cards, or do you want something like the Verena video I did where it's like kind of like a lecture? Let me know what you want in the comments, and then maybe I'll see what I prioritize. Maybe even do both. Who knows? All right, then Pinot Noir. The Banshee grade 1 is a really good new card, but I don't think there's a new main build. There's definitely a side grade, which is again not a bad thing. Is it a huge winner? I think it's somewhere like around the same as Ramiel, kind of like somewhere around here. We just put them together, like, you know, little squad, but they're all like side grades, but we'll just put them in a little squad. They're just hanging out, chilling, vibing. So this deck has potential. I think Nairos is still way better because it's way more explosive and has just erupts with power way faster, and I think for that reason this is like a different approach to Grand Blue, because you basically are way more defensive. Thanks to Pinot Blanc, you have a nice 5 attack combo that you can do, and it feels pretty good, but I don't think it's more overwhelming than Night Rose is, to be honest. So I don't think it definitely doesn't feel like it takes over the main build spot for the clan, but it is a strong side grade and it's definitely a winner in my opinion because it's pretty strong. Like, I maybe put it somewhere here. Like, the grade 1 and 2 are good. The grade 1 especially is very good, but the grade 2 is like specifically for the grade 3 only, so it's maybe somewhere around here. I think, like, you know, it's still a very strong side grade, but the whole pool of cards isn't as amazing as like for these two, for example, so I definitely put it around here. Then we have Prominence Core. I think people really overdid it with their reactions to Prominence Core. People thought this was like worse, terrible, how is this ever going to be better than Spectral Duke, blah 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 blah. People figured out a build and it's looking like this all of a sudden, right? It's looking to be the next main thing because you have the Eagle that gets 5k every time you call something. You have Vortimer grade 2, which when you retire it, get counter charges 1, so you literally don't pay anything for Core's cost basically, because he also goes to Soul, so you have Soul to use for Din Drain and for Josephus and everything. So I think that Core is definitely the next new main build because, I mean, what else does Gold have, right? It has Spectral Duke and it has Gurgwit, which are both good decks. They're both good decks, but I think this definitely has potential to be the next main build, and in my opinion, it's a huge winner. Like all, well, except for the grade 2. Eskrat is really bad. Eskrat is really bad, but Josephus as well as Prominence Core are really good. So I'll put it here because it's kind of lacking in the department of the new grade 2, but apart from that, everything else is really nice. So, like, I'm really excited to play this deck. The only sad thing is that you have to have Percivals, and if you don't have Percivals, it might be a bit pricey, so make sure you pick them up if you haven't already. So definitely a very good deck, and I think it has some really good meta potential as well, but we'll see how that goes because I think a lot of people now are testing the new stuff against the new stuff and not so much like new stuff against the old meta. So I think I'm also going to start doing like now testing Daikaiser against like Prisms and Gavriel and Luard and like seeing how it fares in those matchups, because even beforehand with Zeal we fared pretty well, so I want to see how that has changed. All right, moving forward, Nura Hyoga. Oh, Murakumo, why would you want to discard your trigger checks? This is so sad. Very sad, very sad. Definitely not a main build. It's a side grade, I guess. It kind of goes together with Reiji, to be honest. I think this might even be, I don't know if it's worse than Reiji. I think Reiji might be a little bit worse, but it definitely doesn't feel that good. Like when they erupt with multi-attacks going first, maybe it's a bit okay, but you have to really have a lot of sack involved in that. Nura Hyoga doesn't really feel that good. It really feels quite unfortunate. Then we have Mr. Risers. So Risers, like, first let's talk about what Nova has in V to begin with, right? They have Blouse, which are fun little multi-attack deck, and then they have Victor, which is okay. It's okay. It's top tier in there. So the battlefield isn't really that competitive for like Nova to begin with, but this has some really insane like multi-attack potential thanks to stuff like Cool Hank and Restanding, and then like, you know, the grade 2 Riser becomes your Vanguard and you can swing and you have Cat Baller pressure and like all that kind of stuff. The Power Mask gives you like power and stuff like that. Like it's overall definitely feels like, you know, if you have the right pieces, it has some really strong pressure and you can still use Shout to farm for pieces. And so I think it has a bit of potential as a new main build, just because Nova's card pool to begin with isn't that great in the V series period, and I think it's kind of on the winner's side. Like the grade 1 is kind of whatever, but the grade 2 and 3 are quite good, so I think it's somewhere around here. Like it is more of a new main build than a side grade, because I think there's like it is a side grade, but it's probably like a better side grade than whatever Nova had to begin with outside of like Victor, I guess. So I kind of want to put it around here. It feels like it has potential. Like honestly, at first I thought this deck was really bad, but then the more I play against it, the more I'm like, whoa, why are you doing so many attacks? Like, whoa, why am I so afraid of Cat Baller, you know? So I think Risers has potential. Tsukuyomi. So this is definitely like, you know, the whole support for Tsukuyomi here is all supporting cards, and they're actually quite good. They're actually quite good. I think Tsukuyomi has a lot of potential. I think it's a big winner here, kind of together with Chronojet. You know, they basically took an old deck that wasn't played as much, but still had some potential, and just gave it support it needed, right? Having the grade 1 be like a consistency fixer, and then the grade 2 is another kind of like way to set up your own like conditions and stuff. I think it's pretty good. I think honestly it's pretty good. It lets you just like do Tsukuyomi more consistently and faster. The grade 3 is an extra trigger in your deck if you want to run it. So I think for that reason, this does feel like a winner. Then the Bermuda stuff is basically Lupina support. So looking at this as Lupina support, I think that, I mean, do we put it as a, yeah, I guess it's a side grade because it's not Prisms, but feels like a winner. Feels the same as Chronos Command, to be honest. Like it's a winner with good potential. You basically get to just like farm up a bunch of like force markers and then just have a strong board restand with Lupina, and also you get the like back row attack with her as well. So I think for that reason, she's pretty strong. She's like together with these three, I would say. Like it's just kind of like a squad of like Tsukuyomi and like Highlander and Chronojet. They're all supporting old decks that like these cards are just support for old decks that made things even better. And so I think it's pretty cool. Then we have, ooh, Giraffe. Giraffe, I think, is going to be the new main build for Mega Colony. This is a really good card. Like, forcing your opponent to call 2 from hand and then stunning them is really good because, I mean, oftentimes that will rip out the last things they needed in hand or rip out the pieces they needed for their next turn. So I think that Giraffe has the potential to be the next main build. Definitely feels like a winner in my books. This feels like the best support that Mega Colony has gotten ever since Ghidorah. And so I think this is like really, really good support. Like, honestly, every card in this set for Mega Colony feels really nice, and I think it has really strong potential. So I think it should be the next main build too. You can combine with older stuff too, like, you know, Gridora and stuff, but I think Giraffa is really, really good. Like, honestly, you have to play against it to know, but once you play against it, you will know. Then Infinite Zero. Infinite Zero for me, like, I don't know. Infinite Zero isn't a great ride. Like, discarding 1 to lock is like, when you don't have the payoff from Chaos is not that great. And on top of that, like, he's basically a great beater, so I would play him as a beater, you know, as like a strong rear guard because the deck could use that. But apart from that, like, Colony Maker is really bad. And apart from that, like, you know, this is all support for Chaos, right? And Palladium was really good though, so I kind of put it around here, I guess. Like, it's a winner. It's definitely a winner, but it's a winner because Palladium's really good, and you have more Starvaders to hit for the Craving Claw, and Infinite Zero is a good beater, but that's about it. Like, I think it's a supporting set of cards for Chaos that makes it pretty good, but that's about it. That's kind of how I kind of look at it. I think it's good. It pushes Chaos even more, but it's not as like insane as people had expected, and Colony Maker is just bad, which is really unfortunate because I hoped she would be better. Then Chat Noir. Chat Noir definitely feels like support for stuff like Isabel, and so therefore it's a supporting grade 3, I would say. And all the cards in general feel like support, and I think it kind of goes here together with Chronos Command and Friends. Like, it's just another, you know, basically like, kind of like, you know, it adds to this pool of things that supports the existing decks, but supports them really, really well. So I think for that reason, Chat Noir is a big winner, for sure. Dudley, I don't think it's better than Rising, but, you know, it is a new side grade. But some people will definitely treat it as like a new main build. Like, this has potential to, like, it's really a build of its own. It's a nice side grade, I guess. We can put it like this, I guess, right? So, like, it's on the, not completely a full-on side grade, but it's also, like, you know, I know that a lot of people will be maining this because it has a pretty nasty turn too. Like, you can definitely do a lot of multi-attacks, and they're very powerful too. At first I thought this was going to be very, like, xenophobic, but in general it's actually quite decent. Like, I don't think it's better than Rising, but it definitely feels like a winner in my books because every single card is good. All the cards are good. There's a lot of Dudleys already in V-Series, and that makes it quite strong. You know, just in general, like, good potential overall. I like it a lot. Look at all these winners, man. All these dubs left and right. You love to see it. Goes to show that this whole set is overall pretty quality. Like, it's definitely pretty quality. Because at least, like, there's always at least like one card. Like, even in the case of Narukami, like, the grade 1 is a winner, right? So I don't want to put it entirely on the middle kind of like cusp of things, right? Blockade though, Blockade might be where I finally put something in the middle. Like, this deck feels okay. The grade 1 is very good. The grade 2 is not so good. The grade 3 is pretty good. Like, that's how I look at it. It's definitely not the new main build, because why would you not play this over the Cross or like Blade Master or something, or like the Turnabout that we're getting later this month. Okay, it's a side grade. It's definitely a side grade, but I don't know, it doesn't feel that good. I think it's just about here. I think this one feels the most mid of them all so far. Like, maybe towards here because the grade 1 is quite nice, but that's about it. But even then, the grade 1 doesn't feel that great. I don't know. It's not as great as like Demolition was for me in that sense. I think Kagero is kind of over here. You can combine it with Dallas and stuff and like do things with it, but overall, I feel like in general you would rather play the other builds, and at the same time, it just doesn't bring that much to the table either in terms of the whole clan's kind of like, you know, supportive cards in general. Then we have Fortuna. Fortuna is interesting. You have the ability to stack way more than before, but I don't think it's as good as Astral Poets, or is it as good as like, you know, just regular Himiko or like any of the other Genesis archetypes for that matter. So I'm definitely not seeing it taking over as the new main build. So it's definitely a side grade, and I think it's kind of the same as Vowing. Like, the grade 1 is really good. The grade 2 is, it's okay, and Fortuna herself as a boss unit is fun. Like, you get more force markers from taking damage, and you can like stack your deck so much that you know your damage checks as well. So that is cool. But that's about it. It's like a little gimmick, and it's fun, but I'll kind of put it around here. Man, look how cluttered it's getting over here at the bottom side of things. Definitely a lot of side grades and supporting grade 3s in this set. But yeah, so I would put Fortuna around here. It's a fun deck. It's definitely a fun deck, but that's kind of where I would leave it at. Don't think it's going to really shake up the meta that much. And then Tetra Drive. Tetra Drive to me is like core. A lot of people thought it wasn't going to be that good, and I was really surprised, because to me I was like, okay, sure, Calmos 1+2K is a meme. You only really use that against like force matchups, but at the same time, having 2 Vanguard restands in one turn is really good on top of all the other attacks you're doing that turn. And so heal guards are the reason why this deck is probably not as great, but at the same time, I think that with the right amount of like multi-attacks, don't even need to like high roll that much, honestly. Just like it's a strong multi-attack deck. I don't think it overtakes Stavas, especially if we get Pursuit Assault, because Pursuit Assault will definitely push Stavas way up higher. I think it's better than Valios personally, so I think it is a good side grade. It's like over here. Some people will treat this as the new main deck though. Like some people will treat this as the new main deck instead of Stavas because we don't have Pursuit Assault. And so I think for that reason it has some potential. I would put it on the winner's side, kind of like around here, I guess, like together with this squad of decks. It feels strong. I think like it's kind of like closer to Dudley's, maybe like somewhere around here. I think a lot of people really discounted it way too quickly, but I think the Tetra it's strong. It has like, you have 2 Vanguard swings. You can stop the combo whenever you want to. If you see that your opponent's starting to stack defensives, just do it again next turn. You guys don't have to overcommit to it. Of course, you do commit quite a few pieces to board, but then, you know, then it definitely does suck because you're basically, you know, it's the usual Aquaforce problem, you know, die to defensives, etc., etc. That's why people play Valios. But I think that it has some strong potential. I think this does have potential, and like, especially if it given more support, it'll also be very good. So it's kind of like around here, I would say, kind of around here. So yeah, there you go. These are my winners and losers for Clan Collection for the V Premium format. Took a whole half an hour to talk about everything, but we finally did it. And I really wanted to like discuss everything in this set because I feel like there's a lot of good, like just in general, there's a lot of good stuff. Like you can see a lot of these in tournaments. I'd expect Bunnies, Daihozan, Thinksaver, Giraffe, like everything up here easily in tournaments, you know. So I actually put Tachi very high, didn't I? But I definitely expect Tachi too. Great Nature's looking really good, Bermuda's looking great, Gear Chronicle's looking great, you know, Tsukuyomi is looking really good too, Dudley's looking good, Revengers you can expect to see as well. And then a lot of these ones, like I think they're supporting cards, the grade 1s and 2s you can expect to see in some other decks, but, and therefore as decks themselves they're kind of like fine. And then, you know, you could see random like, you know, risers pulling up here and there, whereas like this stuff and this stuff, maybe not so much, but it's a very good set. It's a very good set, very fun, very enjoyable. I overall definitely am having way more fun with Clan Collection than I ever expected, and so it's a really good set. I'm really glad that we get 2 of these per year because this makes me excited for the next one. And Heal Guardians are a really amazing thing as well, and I'm going to make a video talking about Heal Guardians in general as well, and their applications, and why, you know, I'm really glad that they explore this kind of design space as well in the near future, so look forward to that as well. So yeah, there you go. Those are the winners and losers of Clan Collection in my opinion. I hope you guys liked this video. If you disagree or you agree, or if you have anything to add to what I've said so far, please do leave it in the comments as well. And also let me know what you guys want me to do about Daikaiser, whether you want to wait, you know, maybe like a week or 2 until I get my physical cards, or do you want to just see a kind of lecture, which might still take me a week or 2 to script up, but I have a lot of things to say about this deck and it feels super strong, so I'm very excited. And it's definitely, you know, good news for DP players, and I think in general for a lot of clans, like you're eating good from this set. It's either good support for the existing decks, or just in general it's fun stuff to be explored in general. Anyway though, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you liked the video, please do leave it a like, and also if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel because it does help a lot. But that's all. That's it for me, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.